Are you wanting to stoke the fire of your relationship and turn those conflicts into more connection? Turn the problems and the processing into more pleasure? This is an episode then you'll want to listen to right till the end, because we have really special guests on that are dear to our hearts. Justin Pierce and Londin Winters. This beautiful couple, they really live what they teach. They live the sacred we. They are masters in spiritual intimacy, sacred sexuality, polarity. And what's really great about them is they co-create, like Courtney and I, in their business. They are parents, and they really show up in their partnership in a way that I experience them as deeply respecting each other. They are in each other's care, and you can feel it. I have loved every guest that we've had on our podcast, and these ones are very special to me. I'll be re-listening to this episode probably more than once, and so I hope you get just as much as I got out of this episode to be able to bring that charge back alive between you and your partner. Welcome to The Sacred We. This is the #1 podcast on sacred relating, which is using the medium of the relationship itself for your own awakening. This is for couples who want to be conscious couples. They're done with mediocre ways of relating and know there's more. Know that there's a way to evolve and grow in a way where your love gets to leave a legacy. If that's you, you are in the right place. I'm stoked that you're here. If you've listened before, do us a favor and you get value from this. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all the things so you can keep getting these in your inbox. Share it with a friend. We'd be forever grateful. And now let's get into today's episode.
So we are so excited to have Londin and Justin here with us on this podcast. We've actually been dreaming about it for a long time, ever since we actually were a part of their couples practice evening, and we would practice with them once a month. And it was so powerful. I've read both of their books. I think they only have 2 books. I've read them both and listen to a lot of their podcasts, follow a lot of their stuff on social media, and just found that these two are really, embodying this dance of sacred relationship. We can really feel it. And the places where Mike and I were hitting an edge or not sure what to do here, it was inevitably them that would open something for us. And we could feel they had been on this path in a really authentic way. And they have really been a guiding light for us. And we actually use some of their practices in daily life. We just did yesterday to help us move through a place. And so we're very excited to introduce Londin and Justin and to have them here. And the other little thing I'll add that is really resonant for us too is that not only are they on this path of sacred relationship and having a business together and doing work in that way, but they also are parents together. And so we feel a lot of resonance in how you're showing up in the world. And we're just so excited to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
So happy to be here. So happy. And thank you for that gorgeous intro and rock and roll. Let's go.
Here we go. So our first question, we have so many questions for you, and we actually have lots of people in our world that know you, and I had so many people being like, ask them this and ask them that. So one of the questions that we wanted to ask you is actually a little bit around how you guys came together. And, there's a lot of dialogue out in the world about that men need to do their work before they're ready for a sacred relationship. And one of the things that I loved hearing about your story, at least this is how I understand it, is that, London, you really initiated and invited Justin into this way of relationship. And obviously he chose that and showed up for it. But I'd love to just hear more about that. And one of the things we talk about is that we perceive that women often are the initiator that can initiate the masculine into that deeper communion of relationship. And we're curious if this is how you see it, if you resonate with it. We'd love to hear.
Good question. When I met Justin, he was quite a bit younger than me. We have a 14-year age gap that's less noticeable now because it's the stage of life we're in. But back then, it was incredibly impactful because he was fresh off the boat, pretty much s- maybe out of college.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I must have been 24, 23 when we met, 24 when we started dating.
I mean, he was like ready to play, ready to party, you know? And he had just arrived in LA. We were both living in LA and he had lots of things to play with, you know what I mean? And lots of things to do and explore. And I was very much a sacred sexual yogini at that point in my life. I was almost 40. And I I was so connected to sacred sexuality that I really wasn't necessarily looking for a relationship. I was so fulfilled, deeply solo practice fulfilled. And it made a difference because I didn't really come to Justin with an agenda per se. Like, I didn't have an agenda of like meeting a sacred partner, but I did have an agenda of only engaging in sacred sex. Like, I was not interested in using Shakti for anything other than something that would get me closer to the divine. And the thing that was cool about Justin was, he'd been meditating secretly in his bedroom since he was 11. And yet he had this kind of like bigger than life presence and like very like Rolling Stone vibe. But I got a private moment with him one time and he showed me like remnants of his consciousness. And I was like, immediately, just I could feel how far and deep he went. And so age became irrelevant to me. And at the time, I was dating incredible people, um, but I wasn't, I had no concern with what was on paper. It was so much more about the felt experience, the transcendent possibility. And Justin just was decades older than anyone else I had met, you know what I mean? And he wasn't even remotely ready for a relationship, and I wasn't like a cougar. I wasn't looking for a younger man. He wasn't looking for older women. There weren't any of those projections going on. So both of our logical minds just couldn't imagine this being a possibility. But yet we just kept eliminating other people out of our lives. Like just why would I spend time with them when I could spend time with you? And so I would say that it's a paradox. Like on one hand, I didn't initiate him into anything because he was already very much initiated in his own right through his own journeys. Very much a psychonaut in every way. Um, but very much, like the siren in the forest, there was a part of me meeting a part of him that was undeniable beyond the spoken word and beyond the hidden agendas and beyond the cognitive dissonance of our age. There was like magic happening in our two bodies, in consciousness and light. And um, it brought us together like magnets, you know what I mean? Polarity in its most fundamental state. That doesn't mean we didn't have like a rough road ending up together, It was crazy. I mean, I wrote about it in my first book. So there was a lot of hurts and betrayals and, like, wow, I thought we had an agreement. I don't remember making that agreement. I don't think I made that agreement. I just thought the sex was deep enough that it was an agreement, I mean, like all of those things happened. And then I set him free. I said, I'm not willing to have any kind of sex that makes my cervix one iota smaller. Like I want to be billowing open with every petal of this lotus flower. So you go your own way. I'm going to go mine. And we ended up coming back together. And then this coming October, it'll be 17 years of like actual committed togetherness. So I do believe that in many ways, like my feminine embodiment created something there, but in the best of ways, like completely unspoken. You know what I mean? Just not as a construct,
Just in your being. In your
just in the being,
Yeah.
just in the felt experience, just in the revelation that came through of every time we got together. There was like deep revelations where things, it's the equivalent of like journeys, where things start to make sense and, you know,
Mhm.
And one thing I'll add is her invitation was very much from that omega pole. Her invitation was not from her alpha. It wasn't from, you need to do this and you need to show up this way and you need to do this work with me and you need to do this. She never brought her alpha to try and sway me in any direction. It was her omega, which was that receptive invitation. And that's really the power of omega, is when we learn how to unlock our omega essence inside of ourselves, it creates that magnetism that draws in. So if alpha is the quality that penetrates and cuts through the world, omega is the quality that is vibrant and magnetic and radiant and draws eyeballs and attention in his way. And so she really led me into a better place she led me into my depth, really. She did from that moment and she still does today, every day. Her essence leads me and inspires me into my depth because before I met her, I was a menace. I really was.
he's not lying. He really was a menace.
And I'm curious on that piece, Justin. Is there a place, because I've watched this play out with a few of the couples that we've supported, and this is my experience in me, but I want to hear it from your perspective. The words that I'm going to use is leverage. You being, London, being so clear in yourself, so inner satiated, feeling that deeper truth of non-negotiable, of the qualities you're needing in partnership. I'm curious for you, was part of that leverage what helped you feel the depth, or is the experience different for you?
Well, my depth came from when I would commit and engage in this woman. It was through my commitment to her that my depth would come. But prior to that commitment, in the period of time she's talking about, when I was still dating other women and really wanting to keep my freedom and just come out of a relationship, which ended really badly. And then I had met London. No, we were just kind of friends talking. We were actually working at a gym, Santa Monica, California, way back then together as trainers. Um, and I had no interest in losing my freedom. I wanted to keep what I called back then freedom anyway, which was options open always. Oh, no one, nothing. Do what I want when I want, make a promise and break it every other day. I didn't even know what the word integrity meant back then. And so what I felt in her was the only thing, I wouldn't say the only thing, one of the most impactful things that she had that I wasn't experiencing anywhere else was when I was with her, I truly felt like I had my freedom.
Mm.
Like there was no demand of me. There was no trying to get me to do this or that, but she stood by what she needed and wanted and was very open and expressive with that, but in a very uncontrolling way. And when I felt that freedom, I was just like, I see what she needs. I know where I'm at in my life. I'm going to continue to dabble, explore, play. And as I did, maybe it was a 6-month period of time or so. And then I just realized, like, wow, this woman, with her, she makes me feel freer than with any other woman I've been with. And it was that sense of feeling free in relationship with a woman that was very unique. And that was part of what drew me into her. But as I actually met her, that's when the depth really started to awaken.
Hmm. What there's something a consistent pattern that I see in men in this place where what I'm hearing is London sharing from a place of desire what you're needing in relationship. And what I found is a lot of men perceive that place, and it could be the delivery from the feminine. I'm not sure, but I'm curious to hear your perspective where men receive those requests or the desires as control.
As you said, it's all in the matter of how it's expressed.
So yeah, so you think it's in the way it's being expressed.
Absolutely. It's the way it's felt. It's first, it's the way it's felt in the body. Is it felt as reactivity, anxiety, fear, nervousness? So it starts with where does it originate in the body as a sensation? And then from that subtle agenda or that place of fear, then words come out to try and articulate and ultimately control the moment, right? And that's the alpha quality. The alpha quality is always trying to analyze and say what needs to happen next and what's not working. It brings like structure and everything in an attempt to control. And Omega is just a constant invitation inward into simply, I feel, I
Mhm.
need, I want, without any, and therefore you better. It's just the open invitation. That open invitation has become the basis of our body of work and everything that we do now as we've come to really hone and understand this, the science of sexual polarity. And so we continue to do that still. And that's ecstasy to me. That's one of my favorite things in relationship is her constant, open, eternal desire and yearning for more and her feelings and emotions. And these are things that typically drive men crazy. How do they become alchemized into something where it becomes the thing he craves most and adores and cherishes most about her? So that's been a big part of our alchemical work together. And it worked subtly then, but we've refined it to something that is truly artful today.
I would offer that it's very much about the sacred we because I'm I have a pretty diligent practice that I I don't I need to be careful because I'm so imperfect, but as like a guiding principle of mine, if I'm in fear of like abandonment, if I'm in fear of possession, if I'm in fear of any of the things that the love driven being is going to want to like ensure love will be here tomorrow, I'm doing that work on my own. That's my job to come back to trust. Then what desire is left? The desire for union, the desire for epic love, the desire for like merger, you know? And that's the desire that's in the field. This is where it's the sacred we. It's like getting past myself and all of the things that my smallest as self are going to cling to try and be safe in this life. Those are not inspiring to him and those imprison his freedom, because it's my lack of trust trying to reassure that something will be here tomorrow through a promise that he doesn't even want to make because it's inherently counter to his whole being. But if I could like work with my own I see, I feel there and like really soothe that part of myself, get back into my own greatness, now I can like get so turned on by his freedom, get like rest in his inherent freedom, find it so hot, and then speak to the field that's in the middle of us of what might be needed. Do you know what I mean? Like more integrity is needed here for this cervix to open all the way. Are you down for that? And if you're not, I set you free. But if you are, I'm like, I won't play. And so I would say it's very much similar to the importances that you're placing on this field in between. And like, what are you serving? Are you serving your own agenda? that imprisons another person. Like the free love driven being trying to make everything smaller so she or he can be safe takes away the freedom of the other human. The other human fighting for freedom at the expense of integrity takes away safety from the love driven. And so what lives in the middle of those two is what we're serving. Do you know what I mean? Obviously you do. That's like what you're really doing in the world. And I just want to say I could not support that more because that's where all of the integrity comes from desire. It was, yeah, otherwise desire is like my agenda I'm breaking you over the head with, you know what I mean? Yeah.
And that's one of the most beautiful parts. That's what makes sacred relationship a true spiritual path of awakening. Because sacred relationship isn't merely just some tools to have a better relationship. It's not a path of self-development. It really is an opportunity for deep, profound awakening and understanding. How do we liberate through desire? Desire being known as the primary source of suffering. It's ancient wisdom that's been around for thousands of years. That desire is the source of suffering. And here we are in this practice saying, we're not going to throw out desire. We're not going to become celibate and become monks and nuns and put on our robes and say, don't ever deal with it. It's just a sinful, bad, fiery force that will destroy your life. We say, okay, we understand what we're working with here. We're not going to indulge it recklessly. But how do we bring desire back in and alchemize it from a poison into a medicine that serves love and depth and awakening? And that's really core to what this body of work is entirely about. How do we liberate through desire?
So good.
Well, and this is what I want to say is that for me, for any listeners who haven't tuned in to London and Justin stuff, London, you are so skilled at not only, I'm not with you in your daily life, but in teaching and guiding women in that art of how do you take whatever it is that's emerging, and it might be inside, like showing up like a criticism or showing up as a, I don't like that, or a, I don't want it like that, or, how dare you do that, or whatever that is. But that then that inner work of that everything that arises in me, how do I distill it down to the desire and that invitation? And, in the practices you guys invited us into, but also just in the way you speak, there's just such a beauty and a, like, for me, if I think of for me as a woman, there is a freedom in that. Like when I know that none of what I feel inside has to get shut down, I just have to know how to listen to it and hear the desire, and that there is always a desire that I can bring, but I just have to sit with it. And what is the desire, right? Oh, I wanna push away, I wanna lash out, I wanna blame. What's the desire here, And then getting it to that, and then inevitably, what I find with Mike is when I deliver it as the desire, then something magical happens, and what I love, my favorite part of working with women is watching when they do this. It's like magic, right? They're so convinced, like, "He's never gonna meet me. There's no way. We're over." And then they go and they deliver it in this different way, and suddenly a whole other world is opened, and there's such a freedom in that for me as a woman of that unending practice, and you just do such a beautiful job of embodying that and teaching that. And I'm just curious about your journey. I'm assuming that's been an ongoing journey. Hey, I'd love to just hear a little bit about that.
Mm. Thank you for seeing me. Appreciate so much. Feel very touched. It's like if you ask someone, what do you want to be seen for? Like that would be the thing because deepest heart's truth.
You're doing it. Yeah.
Um, wow. I think I really do live that. I very like I stand on that rock. You know what I mean? That is what I am so inspired to do. And I really believe that desire is holy when it has no hook. And how you know if your desire has a hidden hook is if you communicate it and he has any fraction of a reaction that you don't like that wasn't what you were going for. It's like there's the hook. Mm. But, you know, we're talking about the mystical tradition of desireless desire, where you name their desire. The other person is absolutely free to do the art they want to do with it. Like you play a note, the person playing with you can do whatever they are inspired to do with that note.
Mm.
And to me, that's the most precious thing of sacred relationship is zero obligation to play. It's based in being inspired. We live this, and I love it. Every single day I feel claimed by this man, not because he's supposed to, but because he wants to. I want that more than I want security. I want art. I want bloody raw truth. I want big fuck. I want epic, unobliged love. And how I get there is by constantly bringing desire back to desireless desire, just pinging life force, just so sexy. And Justin does the same. We very much are aligned in this. Like we're so aligned in this. And the amount of energy that runs through your relationship when you live in that place is mind blowing. I'm sure you guys are doing this and you know what I'm talking about. I would love to hear a story from your life. Mm. But I mean, I think once you get a sniff on that deer, that's the deer you hunt. You know what I mean? It's like, why would you like desire with agenda is like it's like a local minima nobody can escape. But desireless desire freely given, offered, and received is just a torsion field that never ends.
It's an expression of the heart that is profoundly magnetic and worthy of worship, and it makes it effortless to worship you in that, and not just because you're doing it, but because you are doing it. It is that gravitational field that loving you is ecstasy, just being in the same room with you because of that very activity that you are doing constantly. And we never suggest, like, London's not perfect. She would be the first one to tell you that, but she absolutely lives this. As someone who sees her every minute of every day, this is who this woman is. And it keeps me in awe being in a relationship with this woman. And there's no question in my mind that I am blessed to have her at my side.
And this is who this man is. And I feel exactly the same. And when we're in practice, we're practicing from that place. I mean, that's the secret sauce. And not many people can even grok what we're saying. And so to hear you reflect that back, it's like, I just love that.
And I just want to say, for anyone who might be hearing this, it's like, this was not my reality when I was 20, 40. So, if someone would have said any of this stuff to me, like, what are you talking about? But with the right path and the right tools and the level of devotion and discipline you would bring to this, like any form of art, like playing an instrument or a martial art or a form of dance, you need to bring that same degree to your relationship if you really want to thrive in a relationship. And you can master it. You can master sex and relationship if you apply that same dedication that you would apply to any other form of art or skill in your life. But it does come with that level of discipline and dedication that we have to apply on a regular basis.
Mm. Can you guys tell a story?
Oh, it's just so many chills. You know, what I really feel in my body when you're sharing is this deep devotion. And when I think of devotion, it makes me think of respect. When there's a respect to the devotion and a clarity in what the devotion is to, which is what I'm hearing is the we, that radical self responsibility, taking ownership for the parts that want to grab on, the parts that are afraid, insecure, and looking for certainty. If I can control you, maybe then I won't have to face all of these deep inadequacies and turmoils that are inside. And when I think about that, it makes me think of the beginning of our relationship and the contrast of meeting Courtney versus women that I dated before that, which the version of me, what I was looking for was comfort. I wanted unconsciously looking for a woman to satiate, just give me the softness and the safety so that I don't have to do the work. It wasn't conscious, but that was when I was
Not what I brought.
what I was blindly looking for. But af- after after doing a couple years of radical self work and holding all of those fragile, and I'm gonna have them forever. That's my daily practice. Holding the fragility inside of me, and me then having the inner insight on, oh, I want a woman. I want a woman who can call me out in my blind spots, because in past relationships my shadows drove the bus and I washed the feminine away, and I knew I needed a woman who could bring fierce love to not let me do that. And when I met Courtney, it was prominent, it was there. And it was interesting when I first met it, because a part of me was like, fuck this, like this sucks. Like, and I was mad, but relieved. Like there was a felt sense of liberation. And I remember my brain going, what?
Wow.
She's fiercely loving me, calling me out, but there's so much grace in it. And this is the thing I feel from Courtney consistently, is there's a graciousness of do what you want with that. But this is me looking at truth, and this doesn't feel like your truth, is how I ended up experiencing it. And then, oh, this is weird. At first, you pissed me off. And now I am in full desire of devotion to you. Like you are, it was my first experience of, well, you're a woman.
Mm.
And when I felt that, I could feel this just stoke in my own internal fire of, I will devote to you the rest of my life because of whatever I'm going to discover in myself, being in proximity to that quality of devotion that I wasn't used to. I was adopted twice in the first year of my life. My MO before her was, and when things get hard, bolt. But feeling a woman devoted to her own internal practice and me getting to feel mine in relationship to it, it just kept bringing me back. I'm like, "Ah, this is kind of hard and messy, but my soul just keeps coming back and wanting to learn and grow and evolve to create an environment of safety in reciprocity to what that's like to receive."
Mm. Yeah, and for me, how I knew Mike was the person I wanted to keep journeying with was, I remember it, when because I had gone through enough of my own initiation and been in some long-term relationships where I got to practice and see what doesn't work well. I had been through all the like, don't do that. I'd worked my way out of the fixer and all that, right? So I was now in the place more of my own cedar practice. And again, imperfectly, but was when I could bring the purity of just what I was feeling and what I needed, when I could bring that to him. And I watched him go through the transformation with me, like how I would describe it, like the alchemy, like, where we both just went through the alchemy together and popped out on the other side. And I saw him standing there, and we were both just learning in that process of alchemy. And that's when I remember being really intrigued by you and feeling, oh, this is where we can actually dance together because he's not avoiding this surrendering to the fires of love. We're actually moving in it together. But I also remember I had to go through a reckoning because I remember realizing, whoa, I have to really grow up all my little girl parts here because also he's so present. And all these little girl parts that still hide or like have subtle ways of manipulating or he sees that. And actually there's so much power in this relationship. I i i have to take responsibility for that, and I remember having to go deep in myself and choose, I wanna live for that level of truth, and I could feel the choice point of where I could choose someone who was maybe less present or less because then I wouldn't have to integrate all those little girl parts, and it was a real moment of growing up, of really growing up and sitting in my own seat of, this is what spirit is guiding me to do alongside this person, but it's my surrender to God, basically.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
To us, let's-
Oh, next question.
I don't mind long pauses.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like it too.
That was incredible to breathe from that. I think it's just really helpful for people who hear a couple in sacred relationship to hear that y- you know, you don't just fall into it. Like you meet it. And like, you could hear us talk about like these epic practices we have and then you would think that you'd be looking for someone that feels epic on day one. But I don't think those of us who are really living this had that experience. We had the experience of like meeting big energy, and like opting in. Because, when you were talking about you could have stepped away and gone for something a little easier, it brings me this thought of like colluding. Like, you can pick a partner that colludes in smallness with you. You could pick a partner that colludes in subtle avoidance with you. You can pick a partner. But when you pick a sacred partner, you can tell like they're just not going to collude in those things.
Yeah, we're colluding
He was
an awakening and devotion.
we're in putting our asses in the fire.
Over and over as many times as life is gonna invite.
And Courtney, I love, hearing your story of your iterations and bringing the fullness of your heart, because when you brought the fullness of your heart, it brought that fire. And then to hear you, Mike, meet that, feel that confrontation, but then step into it, reassuring her, like, whoa, there's a guy here who's going to meet me in the fullness of my heart. You guys, the way that you guys meet. And that's the fire of sacred relating. It is that expression. And it's just like some people might have that moment, but sacred relationship is opting in to letting that moment continue moment after moment after moment after moment after moment. And it's a sadhana.
It's such a sadness.
It is a sadhana.
You have to really like decide that this is the lifetime where you're not hiding.
And I find it's vulnerable. It's because it sounds super sexy, but I don't know about you guys, but in my experience, when I hit those places inside, I'm trying to like scoop up my little guy. He's freaking out and convincing me of all these reasons to like get out of here. And it's vulnerable to be seen while trying to scoop that part up in myself by somebody that I want to be respected by and trusted by. And like, this is my humanness. This is me doing my work. And what a vulnerable thing to
And as you
feel that amount of life.
absolutely, as you name that vulnerability, it's like that's what we will be forced to feel if we really want the depth of intimacy in our life. And the deepest sex is found through the door of vulnerability,
No.
because sex itself is the process of removing layers. Yeah. And physical sex, we just take off our clothes. And spiritual sex, we take off all the layers of persona and the masks and the shields and the defense mechanisms and ultimately the ego. And then we have sex there. And it's that depth of sex that's on the other side. But what it requires, as you guys did and just so beautifully described, is it's our capacity to meet those moments of vulnerability and to open inside of them rather than shut down and run. And if we have enough courage and love in our hearts to do that, the love that's waiting for us just on the other side of that moment is extraordinary.
Mm.
Yeah. And I can feel the place too where once you taste it, I think London maybe said that once you taste it and you understand this place, it's yeah, of course I'm gonna keep showing up for this. Wow. And who you get to become in it, who you get to, what you get to discover about yourself and how alive. So I have a question for you because we've been wondering this question for because you also run a business together, right? You work together, your parents together, and you're these deep in this sacred relationship. How do you dance with polarity in business? Like, let's say when you are in the alpha alpha place, how do you do that without butting heads or, losing the polarity? We're curious about this.
Yeah, you will lose the polarity. Yeah, we lose the polarity. So, in our work, we created the three ways of relating: alpha, alpha, omega, omega, and alpha, omega. Alpha, alpha is powerful partners working together on a shared mission. It requires mutual trust. It's not really the place it's like any work environment. We're not there to process emotions. We're there to get shit done. And so the alpha, alpha is that mutual expectation of getting a task done. Omega, omega is that best friend dynamic, which we also love. There's no responsibility, no task at hand. Maybe we just want to hang out and massage each other's feet, talk about our day, and share our emotions. Creates a best friend connection, which we love too. And alpha omega is where we bring intentional polarity. One of us is bringing the seer, the other the feeler. Where one of us is penetrating, the other is penetrable. We bring all of those dynamics to our polarized connection. For the alpha alpha dynamic, there's a couple ways we've learned to navigate that. It's useful to know. For one, when we intentionally engage in alpha alpha, we know we're doing it and we know we're not going to feel polarity for each other as we're doing it. It will kill sexual attraction. That's to be expected. At first, you get a little scared. You're just like, why am I interrupting my partner? Now I don't want to be with them. Oh no, the relationship must be off. You're just in an alpha alpha dynamic and you just need to change the dynamic. Where most couples really drop the ball is they don't know how to turn alpha alpha off. They're talking about in bed, they're texting people in their bed, they're sending emails in bed, they're in the kitchen talking about work and what needs to get done. And they get into this way of conversation and relating where alpha alpha never turns off and it destroys polarity and neither partner really knows how to get it back. So when we are in that alpha alpha mode, we have a couple ways of doing it. I mean, I've had several clients, best friends in the military, and one of those guiding principles in the military is stay in your lane. Now, this is really brilliant advice because when you're dealing with a bunch of alphas, in order to not get them butting heads, you need everyone to stay in their lane. So if you don't know what your lane is, or you're trying to co-opt your partner's lane and tell them to do it, you're going to get in each other's way and you're just going to butt heads because that's what alpha alpha does if you're not staying in your lane. So a lot of the time we stay in our lane. And so for example, this is our studio where we work most of the time. On Mondays, I got my alpha days where I'm just leading, and London might be taking care of our child, especially when she was younger, or she's on summer camp. And so as I'm in alpha mode, London won't just open the door and be like, Justin, you need to take care of this thing later today with Ava and suddenly talk about that. It would scramble the wires. And now I'm like, am I in work mode? Am I in family mode? And so we were just develop these strategies to keep those channels very pure, even if we're in the same room together. So I walk out and alpha into the kitchen. She's not bothering me with X, Y, and Z. I get to come back in here and stay in this alpha mode. So that's what we mean by alpha alpha lanes. Like when it's London's work day, I'm not going to bother her with family related or household related things going on with our child. I need her focused on her mission. So we're honoring those lanes tremendously. And then even when it comes to talking about work related items, we'll never just blurt out a work issue or problem or just start talking about work. We will always say, hey, babe, is it okay if I bring up something about work? Is now a good time? And we give a partner the opportunity to opt into that alpha alpha moment or not. Say, now's not a good time. Let's do it later tonight. And so we're constantly opting in because we know the cost of that dynamic. So staying in your lane is one way, and we can get a lot of work done because we divide and conquer. She's got things, I got things, and we trust each other in those departments. And then there's the moments where we have to collaborate. We have to bring our alphas together, writing a book. We're working on our third book now. We just handed in the manuscript a couple weeks ago, so that should be out before the end of the year.
Congrats.
London crushed it. It's unbelievable. Can't wait to share it. So it should be out soon. But like there's moments where we have to come together as alphas and we are going to butt heads. Because as you get together on a project, you're trying to make it the best thing that you can. And so you have to bring, no, I think we should do this. No, this is you got to look at this. And we bring that edginess. There's certain things in our life that just require it because it's worth the sacrifice. We're not polarized. We're butting heads. We understand we're opting into it, but we have a container on it. What we're done at 9:00, done. We stop talking about that. We turn that off. And I say, get over here. And I will embrace her and hold her and take a breath with her. And we'll be right back into alpha. But it requires such intentionality. One, to be able to know what dynamic you're in with your partner. And then two, to know how to switch out of that dynamic to restore polarity so you don't get stuck. And what you'll notice is like when we have alpha alpha moments, I can't have London touch me. I'm so repulsed even by physical touch. And I don't want to anchor her touch alpha alpha dynamic.
Right.
So by not touching, it's an intentional thing I'm doing with our nervous systems so we don't cross those wires. And then right at the end of our alpha alpha meeting, like the last thing I feel like doing is embracing her and breathing her and say, I love you, baby. Like that's not at all what my nervous system wants to do. It wants to like, "Argh."
Yeah.
And so I feel that and I've got to notice that. And it's just a habit pattern of nervous system. I don't
Yeah.
identify with it at all. Like, okay, now restore polarity. And within 15 seconds, 30 seconds, it's like it never happened.
But also, like on my end, he just like told me my idea was a bad one. You know what I mean? Like we just had an argument over an idea. And he's like, come here, baby, and there's a part of me that wants to like, no, screw you. I'm going to go pout for an hour. But the thing is, we opt back in because we'd rather be lovers. Like, the thing is, I want to correct what I just said because we opt into the alpha alpha fight because we love being artists. And like the art comes out of two great minds, and like his polarity, my polarity, differences of view. Like, we spent, when we wrote Playing with Fire, we spent a year. What is Omega? And Justin would be like, Omega is beautiful movement, and I'd be like, Omega is way more than beautiful. We would just like, you know what I mean? Because, and it, you know,
But we are both very powerful alphas. We both have very strong views.
and you're probably really passionate about pushing the edge of the work, right? Like not just the easy thing that is easy to agree on, but like let's really like get to the bottom of what really is this thing that would live on through eternity as a truth. That's what we like to do too. And so it involves like tussle. And then when he goes, come here, baby, I don't want to go there either. I want to either stay in my alpha, keep fighting for whatever I thought was the thing, or punish or whatever I do. But um like what kind of love relationship comes out of that? So we opt into alpha alpha, because we also saw a lot of polarity couples that never wanted to ever lose polarity. And then they lost the relationship because they couldn't meet life on life's terms. They couldn't flow with life. And so we were like, well, we also want to snuggle and we want to like fight over book ideas and we want to, and then we want to have great sex too. And so what it takes is just depersonalizing. It's a mode and then it's a mode and then it's a mode.
I loved this is what I fell in love with about your work because when we were sort of dancing in this, I actually hadn't read a lot about polarity work. I was more just we were in the dance of it. It wasn't something I had dove deep into. Um, but when we started to just notice the dynamics in our relationship, I was getting confused about in that place of, okay, I'm a woman, like, and then when I found your work and you were speaking to the place that was getting confusing of, oh, these are states that we consciously choose to move in and out of. And that really fits with, I'm a somatic therapist. I work with the nervous system. That fits so well with how health looks in our attachment systems, in our nervous systems. It's about can we move through the states, right? And if we get rigid, if we get stuck in a state, that's not a resiliency, that's not an aliveness. And when I read that from you, I was like, yes, this is what we've been missing. But I am curious, how do you know when to shift into different states? You're doing a beautiful job of describing this with the alpha alpha, but I'm just curious if you can speak to that in other ways.
Well, for example, in our bedroom, there's no television, there's no devices allowed in the room. Uh, and so that space is never contaminated or polluted with any kind of conversation. We don't even speak about another person in our bedroom. That's just by creating a physical container, you preserve the quality of polarity in your relationship. So when we're in our bedroom, the only things we do there is we meditate. We do the I see, I feel practice, just lying next to each other or embracing. Um, and we'll make love in that space from time to time because polarity is just vibrant and always alive. The room isn't contaminated with other dynamics. So that has been incredibly important to us and powerful. And the other thing that we've developed, because um, I don't know for your listeners, London and we've had a formal sexual yoga practice for 16 years. And some years of our life, it's been very rigorous, where you're showing up every single day for set 40 minutes of practice um, to connect and do these practices with your partner ongoing. We've done that for years. And so where London and I've got to at this point is we do not expect polarity to be there unless we are consciously creating polarity. And so if I'm not consciously setting aside time and space and attention and breath and practice and depth and desire, if I'm not doing that, I will not expect polarity to be there. So polarity is only a byproduct of actively creating a space to generate that polarity. And when you have the depth of polarity in that moment, it can satisfy you for a week, for 2 weeks. That's the only taste of polarity that you get. But with that attitude, it's beautiful because there's so much equanimity in our lives, meaning just allowing whatever this moment is to be. And so, yeah, we have spontaneous moments of polarity all the time. And like one of the main practices we do is we call it always keeping the pilot light on, which is each of us takes 5 to 10 seconds, 3 to 6 times every single day to create some form of touch, breath, I see, I love, and just makes contact intimately to serve and turn our partner on. and then just walks away.
So it's so good.
And so you're keeping the pilot light on, you're keeping that and that's I think that's important for a lot of men and women because I think women sometimes on average feel a little overwhelmed by a man's sex and his turn on. And once he starts, he doesn't turn off. It's like initiate and now it's got to go to ejaculate.
Yeah.
And I think if more couples can really develop this skill of like really bring something where your partner doesn't want you to stop. Like, what's the touch or the eye contact or the word that your partner doesn't want you to stop doing? Bring that. And then you say, now get back to move on to the next moment. And you just do that 3, 4, 5, 6 times every single day. And then your pilot light's always on. So when you do finally come together at the right time, you're right in it. You're making love on the momentum of that.
But it also, really allows, right, like Ava's at that age where, I have to say like, Ava, 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 like we're gonna need to leave in 20 minutes. Do you have your shoes? Ava, have you gotten have you brushed your teeth? Ava, Ava, Ava. I mean, you could not kill polarity harder than like Ava, 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 Ava. You know what I mean? And if we needed to be polarized, I would be so at odds with the part of myself that wants to be a great mom to her.
Yes.
I would be like picking between the love I have for her and the love I have for him. And they don't exist in the same place. Like the lover in me is not even remotely connected to the conscious mom. It's like, and what's so beautiful about that practice, those little like hits throughout the day, is he like hits my lover. I feel my lover. And then literally, because of my energetic agility, I can turn around and be like, Ava, we're gonna get going in a second, And it all lives in a flow of like life on life's terms. Yeah. And I love it. I could not be more grateful to not be expected to be polarized all the time.
Mm.
Because, I'm wearing a, a lot of hats. I'm serving the world in a lot of different ways. Writing a book could not be more alpha. I'm like literally rising up to the eagle, looking down at the forest, like holding 40,000 words at all times in my head. It's just terrible for my omega, and thank goodness that I don't have to perform polarity for Justin. I get I get to be an author too.
Mm.
And if we didn't have that little game where we play like 6 hits a day, we would go for like uncomfortable amount of time without polarity. But because we keep that pilot light lit and we have the energetic agility to do like an absolute 180, conscious parenting, lover, conscious parenting, lover, conscious parenting, really good alpha session for somebody else who got to be omega, parenting, whatever it is. It all freaking fits and I couldn't be happier. Is that the question you were asking?
Yes.
So good. Like, I wish we could just go for another 3 hours
Yeah.
because it's so satiating hearing your orientation in these places. I find it's liberating and freeing. And like in my brain, it puts things in the right folders of the complexities of day-to-day life where there can be so much mental bandwidth trying to make sense of the felt sense of the dissonance of where polarity isn't there. But the permission giving of no, that's not bad or wrong. That doesn't mean you're out of attraction. That's being in a human body. That's honoring biology. That's honoring life. And there are places where it's meant to be that, and it's helpful in serving. But there's places it's not serving. If we're both in Omega, we're trying to write a book, or if we're both Omega, trying to lead a podcast, we're gonna spill all over the place. And is that even of service? I find there's just so much. There's so much I wish we could dig into even deeper. Maybe if you're open to it, we'll have you back.
Well, and the one thing I wanted to say there too, just the what you're describing is so permission giving because I know for me, where it's hard for my love driven part, my omega
Mm.
part, to not get its hooks. Like I notice if I feel as though I have to just be the love-driven omega one and there's no place for my, practitioner self, my, creator of a retreat, my creatrix, then my love-driven self does get hooky because I'm feeling as though I can't where do these other parts of me go? But when I know that there's a place for these other parts of me, it's so much easier for my love-driven part to be in that love place without the hooks. But that's where I noticed if I went too far down that rigid polarity, gosh, my that love-driven one got more hooky because I was, where are these other parts gonna get met or do they have a place? That's what I found at least.
And then I would want more space for freedom
Right.
in the hooky parts. And then there's that dance.
Yeah.
100%. I always say that hostility is a very, or I mean, dependency is a very romantic idea. Like the alpha, I'm the omega. I'm totally dependent on you. I'll follow you anywhere. It's so romantic, but dependency creates hostility. So it's like, if you're the alpha, you better bring some really good alpha because I'm not doing any alpha over here. I need your alpha to be like a better than mine would be. And the person who's doing all alpha is like starving for omega. And then it's like, yeah, I need more. I need you softer. I need you more radiant. I need you available all the time. And the two parts become so like hungry ghosts
Yes.
that it becomes like Justin, I used to always say, it becomes like bad tennis partners. Like, you miss the serve. Never you miss the serve, you need to be more of this. Well, you need to be more of that. And then I could be more of this. And it kind of like falls on its own sword. But we find that if, it's what you said earlier, if you're both taking that radical responsibility, if you're both really developed in alpha and omega, you can actually surrender your parts so much more intentionally and create 10 times hotter polarity when you actually join.
Yeah.
10 times because it's so clear to you. You're so exercised in both. It's like you just rest that whole other part and the polarity is so much more intense.
And something we don't want to overlook about this body of work is it's about liberation. And so if you start engaging in this type of work and it's feeling like a prison, like a should, like you need to be this thing to be worthy of love, then you've missed the deeper point because we're looking to find liberation inside of relationship. And in that liberation, all of your parts are welcome here. All of your parts are worthy of love. And that's where our love becomes unconditional. So we take the onus off our partner that they have to be something or someone, and we start loving their fullness. And what we find when we start that, their fullness comes out. It's a thing you were demanding them to be. It couldn't come out because you were making them terrified. The moment you fully embrace someone's fullness, their fullness comes. They become larger than life. And that's been my own personal experience and what I've seen in so many other couples and practitioners we've been working with. It's just that's what this work is for.
And it's really natural when it's allowed.
Talk about motivation, because then there's a forever discovering a surprise of this person in or this quality in the partner is how I find it of, oh, because there isn't that constriction. Whoa, who is that? Where did that come from? And then that just keeps getting to happen again and again and again. And I feel like that's the motivation to do the hard part of working out of the part that wants to hook in or wants to pout or wants to fight. And then, no, when that armor's gone, there's a whole other level of meeting someone and being seen that reciprocity back and forth. Like, how good does it feel to be seen in a new part that's emerging?
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing.
So as a closing question, we're curious, what is the legacy that you would like the fire between the two of you to leave?
To help our modern world truly understand polarity beyond gender, the essence of this body of work being rooted in non-duality. We're not here to study polarity to argue over our differences, but to realize them for the illusion that they are. At the heart of soul, this body of work, we brought through Alpha and Omega for that very purpose, so we could come to understand these parts in ourselves, our seer, our feeler, our consciousness, and our body mind, and stop wondering if we're man enough or woman enough, and start cultivating these qualities inside of us as men and women and bringing those gifts in service of our partner, in service of our children, and what serves the moment. So I'm deeply committed to this framework, allowing that so that everyone who learns it feels liberated, not only spiritually, but also in their sexuality, where they can feel confident in themselves and who they are and what they desire, and to learn how that is actually an expression of their deepest gifts and their loves. And so it's just a matter of, how do I learn how to express what's inside of me in an artful way that it serves and opens my partner and serves and opens the world, as opposed to making the world my opponent and shutting down others or shutting down myself. And so that alchemy from desire being poisoned into a medicine and an authentic, real, legitimate vehicle for awakening is what this entire body of work is about.
So good. Thank you so much for just bringing your medicine to this space and just the juiciness of this conversation and the energy flowing back and forth.
Mhm.
Just thank you. Thanks for doing your work and pioneering that legacy.
Thank you guys for having us. And it's so cool to know you guys are there, not so far, but on another part of the world, just walking a similar path,
Yeah.
bringing this kind of wisdom into the world because it's deeply needed. We can see the nature of our relationships in a world scale, but if we could just bring that healing to the one person that we deeply love, can can we bring our effort there to love one person perfectly? Is that possible? And so I see you guys doing that work, and I really appreciate and see you, and just an honor to be here with you. And I want to keep this conversation going and talk to you guys forever.
I would like to add that, one of the worst realities you could have is for your home to feel like the least safe place in your life,
Oh,
for your relationship to feel like the loneliest place in your life,
yeah.
and to feel like the dream of epic love is out of your reach. And to be on this call with you guys tonight and to see you guys being a message that your home can be the safest place and your relationship can be the warmest place. And the dream of epic love is available if you're willing to meet it. You guys are living that. And honestly, that lights me up like you have no idea because that, like, every person you interact with around your child's life, they're going to feel that in you. And it's going to put them back into a possibility that maybe they gave up on. You don't have to say a word. They're just going to see the way he touches you when you guys walk back to the car, after the event, and so I'm so lit up by just being in your presence and seeing what you've created together and what you're living and what you're teaching. And I just want to bow to you and say, what a gift to the world you're bringing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aw, like a shared bow, like a bow to the bow to you too, to the practice, this sadhana that we're all journeying deeply in day-to-day life. Yeah.
Thanks for helping us feel less crazy in bringing this work to the world with all of the projections and judgments and feeling the resonance of, like, I don't know, we're perfectly crazy. And I have a sense, Justin, the music that you listen to, I'd probably rock out with you on that. Inside joke for everyone listening. Thank you, and thank you everyone for tuning in and listening. This is so juicy. We'd love to hear what this poke provoked inside of you. We read all the comments. Let us know below. What's your insight? What's your aha? What's your takeaway? What's the commitment that you're gonna make to your relationship that can bring in more juice, more polarity, or more alpha alpha? Uh, We'd love to hear that. And if you got value from this, do us a favor, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell, do all the things. Helps this reach more people. And we'll see you on the next one.